My name is Jason Hatch, and I've been working with Operation Snow Leopard for about 3.5 months now. Prior to working with Snow Leopard, I had no knowledge or experience with Afghanistan. I never served there. I had served in Iraq, and all it took was a call from a veteran friend out in Hollywood who said, "Hey, we're going to go out and try and save some people," and that's all I needed. So I jumped in with everything I had and tried to support as much as I could. My role with the group is primarily working with foreign engagement and trying to find destination countries and locations where we can take folks. It's a little bit challenging. It's hard enough to do when you're working for the government. It's infinitely harder when you're not sanctioned by a government and you're doing it through track 2 diplomacy. The one thing that I wanted to avoid when I got involved with Snow Leopard was the human element. I did not intend to connect with any of the folks that we were evacuating and get involved in their stories and their lives. You know, it's much easier for me to just focus on creating avenues and pathways for them and building out networks. You know, it just wasn't possible. There was such a rush of people, and so many folks wanted to get out that we all had to, connect. It was something that I wanted to avoid, but as soon as I made that first connection on WhatsApp at like 2 in the morning with somebody that through my computer screen was hiding out in a basement and worried about who was going to knock on the door, it was like I was pulled in. And so from that point on, I decided that if I did not get these people out, then somehow my life would be a failure. And so I leaned even farther in. And you can't help but become familiar with folks and start to care for folks and start to worry about folks when you're actually in conversation with them, and you realize that they're not so different from you, and they're not just a name on an Excel spreadsheet or a number on a list, to be checked off. It's somebody that's on the other end of that. And that was hard because there's been a lot of tragedy throughout this operation. The amazing thing to me has been working with the interpreters and the folks who had immigrated from Afghanistan and were now living in the United States or in Canada or in Europe, and just seeing how much they cared and what they wanted to do, not just for their family, but for people they'd never met either. Any organization that had any success during this evacuation effort, I promise you it can be attributed to the interpreters and the folks that were working the phones and calling the families and speaking in Dari and Pashto and trying to figure out what was going on. Without those folks, nobody would have had any success. This thing has been such an emotional roller coaster. I mean, at one point of the day, you will be so inspired by the caring and just the bravery and the courage shown, and then 30 minutes later you'll be on a call with just the lowest form of scum known to humanity. Profiteers who are out there doing things that just for money. Other folks that were involved, they're just trying to fundraise for their organization back wherever they're located at. And it's very disheartening to see. And then you also have the issues on the ground where some people don't make it. And it's difficult to deal with that, even though you're not there and you're not smelling it and you're not hearing it, but it's communicated through your screen to you that, somebody lost their life or somebody was beaten. We ran across a very difficult case the other day that just took it out of all of us. It involved a newborn that needed an operation, and the situation was dire. The child was not eating, and we were trying to find a location where the operation could take place, and We were tossing everything against the wall. Are we going to fly them out and try and get them to a visa to another country where we can get the operation taken care of? Well, no, you can't do that because the air pressure inside of a cabin for a child with a brain bleed could be fatal. How do we get antibiotics in and make sure that they get to the right place where they can be administered and sepsis doesn't occur and the child dies after the operation? We got the child through the surgery, but then it didn't make it because hypothermia had set in, and it was just something that we had not planned on. And I will tell you that we went from high fives to just the lowest you can possibly feel. So getting into this work, you know, I think all of us that are doing it understand that it's like combat in a way. You have to turn that humanity switch off sometimes in order to get the job done and help the next person in line. That's hard to do. It takes a toll on you. And by no means am I suggesting that, you know, we're carrying any heavy load compared to what the families are that are over in theater, hiding out, moving from safe house to safe house, worrying about who's going to knock on the door next. We're not even close to what they're dealing with. But it does affect you here. I know that for me, I won't look at things the same way. This has been one of the best things that I've ever done in my life. I've said a million times that it's pure. There's nobody here working for money. There's nobody here working for glory or recognition. We're working to help people that we'll probably never meet, you know, get out of a situation where their lives are in danger. And I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud of the people that I'm working with. I worry that next year everything will be out of the news cycle, and U.S. Department of State and the U.S. government and everyone will try to forget that Afghanistan ever happened. And I think for those of us that are in it for the long term, like Snow Leopard, you know, we have a 2-year mandate, and we're going to try and work to get folks to, you know, through the system to better outcomes over the next 2 years. You know, that's going to be a struggle for us, and it's going to be a fight. Again, this has been one of the high points of my entire life. I will celebrate being called to volunteer for this mission for the rest of my life.